She was 67, her knees damaged from years of climbing staircases lined with dusty shelves. Yet, she walked farther each day than most people half her age. Why? Because in her village, children were growing up with empty hands and emptier futures. Tonight's story is about footsteps, small, determined footsteps that carried hope into places forgotten by the world. This is the story of Aurelia Sato, the woman who delivered books on foot. Aurelia had worked in the town library for 42 years. The shelves were her friends, the pages her daily music. But when budget cuts came, the small public library was the first thing to vanish. The doors closed, the keys were taken away. Her heart felt like it had been locked inside with the books. But it was what she saw outside that truly broke her. Children wandering the streets with nothing to do, teenagers dropping out of school, parents too tired to dream. Aurelia whispered, "If they can't come to the books, then the books must come to them." She filled a canvas bag with picture books, folk tales, and one heavy dictionary. Her neighbors laughed kindly. "Where are you going, Aurelia?" "To deliver dreams," she answered. She walked to the nearest cluster of houses, barely 5 homes. But the moment she opened a book, children came running. They sat in a circle, barefoot, dusty, but shining with curiosity. She read until the sun began to set. The next day, she walked farther, then farther. By the end of the first month, she had walked over 200 kilometers. At first, people thought she was doing charity, but then they realized this woman didn't just hand out books. She taught children how to read. She explained stories until eyes sparkled. She told parents why stories mattered. Some children began leaving small gifts for her in return. A flower, a drawing, a ribbon made from an old cloth. She kept every one. One day, a violent storm arrived. Most people stayed inside, but Aurelia stepped out with her bag covered in plastic. When she reached the village square, she found 5 children waiting under a trembling tin roof, soaked but smiling. "You came," they said, and she realized it wasn't the books they were waiting for. It was her. Months passed. Her footsteps became part of the rhythm of the town. People began to anticipate the soft knock on their door, followed by her gentle voice, "Would you like a new story today?" Children who once struggled to read began reading to her. Parents who never touched a book began asking for newspapers and recipe guides, and later, books on agriculture, business, and self-improvement. The librarian was no longer one woman. She was a movement. One evening, Aurelia found a letter in her mailbox. The handwriting was shaky and familiar. It was from a former student, a boy who used to hide behind the library shelves, too shy to speak. He wrote, "I became a teacher because you taught me that stories matter, and you never stopped walking. I want to help your library walk farther." He enclosed a donation, small, humble, but powerful. The next week, more letters arrived from nurses, farmers, shopkeepers, students, all people whose lives she had once touched. They donated books, they offered rides, they volunteered. Her footsteps had awakened an army. 1 year later, the abandoned library reopened, not as a government building, but as a community-built library of footsteps. And at the entrance, a plaque read, "For Aurelia Sato, who carried stories when the world didn't." Even when the library reopened, Aurelia continued her walks. She said, "Stories don't live on shelves. They live in people." Children, now older, taller, began walking with her, carrying their own bags of books. Aurelia had wanted to save a library, but she ended up saving a generation. A single story can change a life. A single person can change a village. And sometimes, all it takes is a pair of worn shoes and the courage to keep walking. Thank you for walking through this story with me tonight. May it remind you that even the smallest act of kindness can ripple through generations. Sleep peacefully, knowing the world still has people who walk for others.